can. Hey everybody, welcome to Toolbox Tuesday. It's good to see you here today. And before we begin, I do want to say to the Tempe family, Pay Compass family out in Tempe, Arizona, thank you so much for allowing us to come into the office last week. We had a super duper fantastic time. We rocked out. We had a good time with you. And we picked up some knowledge while we were there. Always great to hang out with you guys. Looking forward to getting back into the office again so I can see you all again very, very soon. But hey, you know what? Let's talk about you, the sales agent. What are you doing in the month of July? You got a little free time, don't you? I knew you did. I knew you did. Great. Because you know what? We've got some Toolbox Tuesday sessions coming up for you in the month of July. Let's show you what's coming up on tap. So next week, July 7th, we're going to kick things off with our Coffee with Closers. That's where our CEO, Justin Volrath, gives you the State of the Union within the first 20 minutes or so. And then we open up the call to you, the sales agent. And that's where you can come up, you can ask questions, you can share your wins, and you can just talk directly to our CEO. The following week, Tuesday, July 14th, this is where we're going to pull back the curtain on that brand new PCI program that we're launching here at Pay Compass. Justin has alluded to it, talked about it a little bit during some of his daily bearings and some of the recent Coffee with the Closers. Now we're ready to talk to you about what it entails. Make sure you join us for that on the 14th. Coming up on Tuesday, July 21st, Toolbox Tuesday. Check this out, your Square demo account. All right, now here's the deal. Since we launched Square, we've been saying to you, the sales agent, hey, create your own Square account. Hey, make sure you reach out to our sales support team and turn your account into a demo account. Well, guess what? During this session, we're going to show you how to actively use your demo account so that you can present it to a wide range of different merchants out there in the field. You got to make sure you join us for that one. Looking forward to it. And then we're going to round out the month of July on the 28th with an overview of Navigo. Now, I know you go into Navigo and you find all your documents and you use it to fill out the application, but man, oh man, there are so many features in there that I'm willing to bet that you're probably not using, right? Okay, it's cool. I know there's a lot in Navigo, and that's why we're going to do an overview of the entire platform. I will be sending out invites tomorrow, which is Wednesday. Oh my gosh, July 1st. What? I'll send those invites out tomorrow. Get those on your calendar. As always, whenever I send out invites, if you don't see those on your calendar, just reach out. Just sales@paycompass.com. Pretty easy. We'll make sure we get those invites onto your calendar. Thank you for sharing that slide, Producer Hen. You can pull that down now. Totally cool. All right, so today we're going to talk about the Genie app, which I know you have on your phone and which I know you use every single day. But as always, this session is all about you. So a couple of key things to point out. This session is being recorded within about 24 hours or so. This is going to go live on our Pay Compass YouTube channel. However, you're the type of sales agent that likes to use an AI note taker, aren't you? That's cool. Good for you, because you know what? This is the place where you can launch that. Go ahead, launch your AI note taker, take all the notes that you want. We want you to be successful and gather as much information as you can. As always, we are going to break for questions, and you're going to have a couple of options. You can either throw your questions into the chat, or if you would like, when we take a break and we start taking the Q&A, you could just come off mute, ask your questions directly. Whew. We got through all that, but we ain't done yet, because now, normally I introduce this guy as my co-host. Not today. Today, he is my guest panelist, and he's actually the brains behind the Genie app. Ladies and gentlemen, give some love to John Marshall. Hey, John.
Scott, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, John. And you got the memo. We're wearing the same shirt, so thank you. Now we're twinning. I appreciate that, dude.
That's it. Back in black.
Back in black, you got it. John, you know what? You were the one that pretty much brought the Genie app to the table. It started as an idea in your head last year. For some of you on this call, you know, I don't want to assume that everybody knows John's background, but let me just kind of share very quickly. John was a business owner for many, many years, and after he sold his business, he got into selling merchant services. Okay, so he's been on both sides of the counter. But John, I want to throw it over to you very quickly, and I want you to share the brainchild, the idea. How did Genie come about as far as when you started playing around and building a mobile app, and just kind of get our audience up to speed so they can have an understanding of where this started to where it's at today.
So, Scott, I think you and I were bantering back and forth last July, trying to figure out how to create a terminal selection matrix in Excel.
Yeah.
And we found Excel got in our way rather than helping us, get on our way. And with a little Googling, I found a new platform, and the rest is kind of history. So this really started off to replace spreadsheets. Because think about it, you don't want to open up your laptop while you're driving or find a Starbucks with free Wi-Fi or whatever. Laptop really was a hindrance. So I was trying to find something that we could deliver all of this information on your smartphone in real time. Right. So again, all those Navigo price lists, right? Instead of downloading them every month and finding the updates, they're just right there in Genie in real time as you go. So it really took a lot of that manual administrative work and put it aside, dressed it up, and delivers it, on a tablet, a laptop, or your smartphone.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why I did want to point out to you, the sales agent, that John has been in your shoes and that John has sold merchant services previously is because when it came to fleshing out the Genie app in and itself, he was kind of going back to his days when he used to sell. And he was thinking about, well, what was a lot of the information that I needed when I was on the road? So that's what started kind of getting built into the app, and it's just kind of blossomed from there. John, I know you got some updates that you want to share with our audience here today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick it over to you. Go ahead, share your screen. To you, the audience, as always, we want your questions. Throw them in the chat, or when we break here in a little bit, you can just come right off mute. You want to ask directly, not a problem at all. All right, John, what are we looking at here, my man?
Just verifying, you see my Genie app screen?
I do see your Genie app screen, correct.
So, I know all of you know this, so I just want to go through it one last time. When you're logging in on your phone, if you're using a Pay Compass email or another email, instead of putting your credentials in it at the top, check off the accept all the details and terms and go down a little further and choose log in as Google or log in with Outlook. When you do that, it will inherit the credentials of your email that's running on your phone, and you won't get the two-factor authentication, right? Two-factor is great, but if we can get rid of it, it's even better. So that's just a little hint for those of you who have found that or haven't found that secret sauce. Also want to point out that, again, this is operating system agnostic. It's as happy on any device, a laptop, a tablet, a smartphone. I have it here in laptop mode. You'll see all the navigation is on the left. The smartphone UI is a little bit different. The home screen icon and the CRM shortcuts are down here at the bottom, and the other solutions slide in is over under that hamburger menu. So just a little bit of nuance, a little bit of difference, if you're navigating using the different physical devices. Also, I know you've all visited the hardware guide, but in a laptop, you'll have 3 images wide. You can slide back this nav bar to icons only and get 4 images, right? That can help you doing your laptop analysis. On a smartphone, there's only 1 image on top of the other, right? So it's a little bit different based on the screen real estate that you have available. Now, Scott, you mentioned we've been working on a couple tweaks and updates that I want to highlight today. I'm going to just jump into prospects in the CRM section and point out a couple things. Again, the CRM, if you haven't used it, is really to help you organize all of your leads, contacts, active accounts, maybe even lost accounts that you want to go back to and prospect and see if there's some buyer's remorse, right, and switch them back. So this can help you organize all of your contacts. In the filter section, I can limit it by zip, state, city, the interest level, the prospect status. And when I do that and go to the bottom of the list, I can then zoom in on that prospecting area and see all of my different statuses and contacts, in that area. So again, the map is a little bit overwhelming, but if you use the filters, it can actually help you prospect in a state by state, town by town, zip by zip. The other neat thing up here under Add Prospect is if you thought this was a lot of aggravation to enter new prospects, which it can be a lot of information, we did add this business card import function, right? And you can take a picture of a business card and it'll extract the vendor or merchant information. If there's a person's name and their job, it will actually add that to the contacts list and connect the two as an employee of that merchant. So again, really neat features. If there's a website URL on the business card, it will reach out to the website and see if an icon or a logo is available, in which case it'll give you that option to choose that. So really neat features that could pre-populate all of this information and add a logo all with one click. And if I just launch this, I want to show you one other feature. If you don't have a business card, you can dictate those merchant prospect details into your microphone of your phone, and AI will parse it and actually then put that in as a prospect, including if you dictate their website URL. Just want to demonstrate very quickly. Here's a card I had preloaded. If I go and click this Review Details button, it will do the AI, and it does give you this summary screen of what information it found. And the reason I show you this is if there's a misspelling, in the name or in the URL, you can go up and actually edit it and fix it or add it if it didn't exist before. So this is your ability to tweak before you submit. And if I scroll down a little further, it'll actually, again, this particular website was nice, and it downloaded a favicon and a logo. And if I go ahead, I can choose which of these I want to adopt into my prospects. And if I click go ahead, it will add that. So again, super easy to be able to add those different prospects. And let's just go back and cancel out of here. So it looks great. It works great. But what happens after that? Let's just drill into one of these. So a couple things happen here. You all know that you can track your appointments, follow-ups, and tasks. It'll add it to your calendar agenda view across all your prospects, and it'll track those prospect, the statuses. But if you have a address in with that prospect and a phone number, you could dial them right from your phone right here, a quick dial. We also have all three navigational tools. So if you prefer Apple or Google or Waze, you can use whatever your preference is to reach this prospect as your next stop of the day, right? So it not only keeps you organized, it actually gives you turn-by-turn directions to your next stop. Couple other things going down, right? It'll show you upcoming events. Here's those contacts that are assigned as employees and what their job is. Again, you can do a quick call directly to their cell phones or email them from here. But what I wanted to stop and remind you all of is this little quotation tool. So in Navigo, we've got our statement analysis tool, which is great. It works great, but you do have to get a statement. You do have to upload a statement. You have to wait for them to process it and send you back the results. If it's on a weekend or after 5 p.m. Eastern, sometimes you need to wait till the next day to get those results back. So we built a similar solution into Genie. It does make some assumptions, but ISOAMP also makes assumptions when you're dealing with flat rate or tiered statements. So we're making assumptions, they do too. So if you have the merchant's attention and you can work with them, maybe they have given you a statement, maybe they're reluctant to. If you can just get some information from them, in this case, what is your monthly card volume and how much are you paying? We can generate a quick quote savings for all of the three pricing plans, right? The cash discount, surcharge, IC Plus, and the latest rack rates for Square. But before we go on, I want to point out a couple new features. It does calculate their average ticket here for you. It calculates their current effective rate. You can look up and set the MCC and the MCC's average pass through. I'm going to tell you why that's important in a minute. For IC Plus and for Square, right, transaction counts might be required. For surcharge, I need to know the ratio of credit to debit. And Square prices card present and card present not present differently. So if you're using the Square savings calculator, which I'll go to in a moment, we do need to know the ratio of card not present to card present. Think invoicing, think online ordering. Those are all going to be card not present transactions. So Scott, with all of that going on, I'm going to tap Quick Quote for this particular merchant. And you'll see here, I have all of those pricing models, starting with cash discount. And it gives you an approximate savings based on what their current price is or how they're currently priced and how your pricing defaults are set up. Surcharge, if in those states that allow it, again, 98% still is going to pull them back, save them 67%. It's a good program if you can if your state allows for it. IC Plus still happens, right? And it'll calculate an estimated savings, again, writing them under that. But here's the latest Square rack rate programs. As most of you know, they have 3 different tiers of pricing. If you haven't memorized what they are, there's a little breadcrumb down here in the corner that shows what, in this case, the plus pricing is for card present and card not present. But perhaps more importantly is it shows you what the Square effective rate is when using the plus plan and the potential savings to what they're paying today in using a Square rack rate. So just to give you an example, the premium plan drops by 10 basis points. So the percent save will go from 1583 to almost 18%. If you did the free plan, which charges a little bit extra, both in card present and card non-present, it drops to 12.5%. So you can see that very quickly you can find the best Square plan, estimate the savings in addition to the other pricing methods.
Now, John, when it comes to generating the quote, what are we generating here? Are we generating a PDF that can be emailed over to the merchant? What are we talking about when we're generating a quote for them, John?
So at the moment, there isn't a generate PDF option or an email option. So
Okay.
my suggestion would be, we've added these little pill dots here. If you only want to propose Square and cash discount, we can deselect surcharge and IC Plus, and just those 2 boxes will show. And so my suggestion would be to take a screenshot of one or both or whatever you need and email that. And the fact that it is formatted and organized and looks great, I think actually adds credibility to your presentation. Just instead of just telling them what you think they're going to be saving, here we're running it through our Genie tool.
Yeah. And the benefit of that is doing it instantaneously. So even just having a conversation across the table from the merchant, capturing some of that basic information that you're talking about as far as the volume goes and the percentages, things along those lines. I mean, it's a conversation where it's like, well, if you don't mind, Mr. and Mrs. Merchant, let me just see what I can do here. And to your point, John, screenshot, sitting right across from each other, directly to their phone. You can send it via email later on. Whatever it takes to gain their interest in the moment while you have their attention.
And it reminds me of the old days, Scott, where you'd say, "Oh, I'll make an appointment to come back next Wednesday with a
Yeah,
proposal." Well,
eliminating that.
they could have lost interest, gotten distracted. Maybe they called their uncle who's also selling, processing, right? All those things can happen. So this is really meant to strike while the iron is hot. So I know there's also been a lot of questions and concerns or seeking information on what are my margins going to look like with Square, the different rack rate levels of Square. And I have a little hack for all of you, and it's right here in front of you on the screen, and that is we lean into the Interchange Plus box. And if you have selected the proper MCC for this particular merchant, the little breadcrumb box in the bottom of IC Plus shows you what that average MCC pass-through rate is for this particular merchant, right? So if you have that and you know what your Square Schedule A cost is, you know what the cost of selling Square, for you is. And I can go back here now and say my effective rate for Square is 3.28. So I can calculate what that margin difference is uh, fairly easily, right? Again, MCC pass-throughs are averages. They vary by geographic area and all those sort of things, but they are average. So this will get you pretty close to understanding what your margins might be selling each of these different rack rates. And if you're selling surcharge with Square or you're selling cash discount with Square, again, you know what their current effective rate is, and what the increase to their customer, their customer fees or customer selling prices would be, the flat rate. So again, you can lean into that IC plus as your way to estimate what margins might be on these different accounts.
All right. And John Marshall, I see we got a question in the chat from John Williams, so I'm going to throw this over to you.
Sure.
Can you edit the average interchange manually within the app?
Thank you, John. I'm going to go back to my previous screen and I'm going to go down to the prospect volume and see you have this add edit volume. So that's how I can enter this information in. So if I click that button and go all the way to the bottom, I've got an MCC lookup. So if I know I'm doing restaurant, I can just type REST. Well, okay, I might want to do more than that. Antique shops came up as well. But here I could do 5814, 5812. Maybe it's a veterinary clinic, right? Veterinary services. I can just quickly look these up by number or by name. And when I submit, that updated average pass-through shows up here. So I hope that answers your question, John. You cannot override them, but you can hand pick to try to find the closest MCC for this particular prospect.
Yeah, I was going to say, John Williams, if you want to come off mute and just make sure we're providing clarity here, absolutely come off mute, brother. Love to hear from you.
Hey, good morning, afternoon,
Good morning.
whatever it is.
It's Tuesday. That's all we care
Right.
about.
No, I was looking to actually manually change the actual MCC code, not in a nefarious manner, but more like if you have a restaurant, let's say in a higher end neighborhood where you know that the average interchange may come in higher than your average restaurant interchange. Yep. I've run into that before in certain neighborhoods where more of people are carrying corporate cards, etc.
So what my hack would be, I'm going to go back into Quick Quote for a second. I'm going to use Interchange Plus to still calculate that, but you're likely aware that you have your seller markup defaults, right? As an agent, you can override your defaults for this particular merchant. So let's go in here and let's say, where's our IC Plus markup? Maybe you want to add 15 basis points to the pass-through. You can also choose the transaction fee. And by doing that, your effective rate for Interchange Plus is the calculated difference between the average pass-through, the 15 basis points, and the 5-cent transaction fee. So you can, trick that out using your override values.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Excellent. Got another question in the chat. Can you give an example of what pricing looks like with Square rack rate?
I can't in this particular model, right? So that's why I said you'd have to sort of do the math on the pass-through versus the effective rate of the particular plan that you're working with.
Excellent. And John, I know that you got another entire section of the Genie app that you want to highlight for everybody. seeing that we're coming up close to the bottom of the hour, and now that the questions are coming in, I think now's a good time just to kind of pause very quickly. Throw it out to you, the sales agent. What questions do you have? You can come off mute. You can throw your questions in the chat. Let's get those addressed before we move on to our next section.
They're mesmerized, Scott.
They are. They were just like, oh my gosh, it's the final day of the month, and oh, we're learning so much about the Genie app. I mean, they're soaking it all in. That's what's happening.
They're hungry for the next section.
They are. Actually, the next section, matter of fact, I'll tease it just a little bit. To all of you, you remember about a month or two ago, we did this Toolbox Tuesday called POS Roundup. Well, what's tying into this presentation today with Genie ties into helping you to effectively identify which point of sale system is going to work best for your different opportunities. So that's going to be coming up here in a little bit. But right now, we're just going to break for questions. Come off mute. Questions in the chat. Love to hear from you.
Hey, while we're waiting, Scott, just a selfish plug. We have a suggestion box option here. So if at any time you come up with that great idea, the new feature, the new request, maybe find a broken link or wish there was an article on a different topic, just tap the suggestion box and it'll find its way to us and we'll prioritize it. And like the business card AI analyzer was a suggestion box entry. The Waze maps and the Apple maps were suggestions as well, not just Google Maps. So we do act on these suggestions to make this more meet your needs.
And that ties into what John's going to show next in regards to what's been added for content from a point of sale perspective, which actually started out as a suggestion, or actually a couple of suggestions that came from our sales agents. But one more time, I'm going to throw it back out there. Questions, come off mute, throw them in the chat. Once, going twice. All right, 3 strikes. There we go. We are going to do a Q&A at the very end too. Keep thinking of those questions, friends. So, John, this was probably one of the bigger pieces that we got excited about as far as presenting content to our agents today, as far as all the updates that have been happening within the Genie app. Now, we know that with the POS landscape, it sometimes gets very, very confusing, where we've got several different offerings that we can present to all of our merchants, but what usually winds up happening is some of our agents say, okay, well, you're telling me that I can present Clover to a retail, and you're telling me that I can present Clover to a restaurant, but I don't know when is the right time to actually start presenting some of those as options. Can you help me to identify, what, a direction that I should be moving into when it comes to making those recommendations on POS? And John, where did that lead us to today?
So I'm going to jump over here into our knowledge base in the app. And there's a lot of interesting things here. You guys know that you can highlight your favorites up top. But what I really want to point out is if you go to this filter option and you select POS, right? Because we're talking about POS and the different values. You can see I've got a number of articles and links to what really amount to battle cards, right? Here's the roundup itself. What are the best use cases for each of our POS offerings? That addresses your question a second ago, Scott. But here's, brand to brand. How can Order Counter win against Toast? How can Clover win against Toast? How can Union do the same? What nickel rounding options are available by POS brand? How do I become Union certified? All these different things. But if we go down a little bit further towards the bottom, we now have playbooks, sales playbooks for each of our primary 5 POS brands. And we're going to talk about this in a moment, who's responsible for POS implementation, because I think that's an important thing to look at. But Scott, if I open one of these links, I think it's going to break it because it's going to launch a new screen. So
I'm going to find out together, aren't we?
I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to share the whole screen. And I should be back now, am I?
Yes, I can still see the Genie app up on the screen.
Okay, so again, just to start at the top, what are these best use cases? So if I tap this open and scroll down, I have a preview or I also have the link. But again, this is that roundup of those primary, the heavy hitters that we offer, right? But to your point, Scott, here's a quick grid that talks about, what vertical is best suited to what brand and why. You can go a little bit further, and we have just little elevator pitches on each of the different brands and how they fit in. And you can go even further and say, well, what are those characteristics of a merchant that would make Clover the best fit versus Square versus Order Counter? So this is sort of a high level overview of all of those POS systems. But if we go back up again and look a little bit deeper, again, you can see all of these. How do they win against one another? But now we have Square that we just added, right? So we know there's 3 tiers of SaaS, and there's restaurant, there's retail, there's services. So here are a couple articles on the 3 different plan tiers and what features in Square are for restaurant, for retail, for services. A Square playbook, right? Let's actually just pick on Union for a second and drill on in. I think this is really handy if you're not very familiar with each of these brands, right? How would I position Union against the others? What are those best fit profiles we kind of suggested on the other document? Strong fit indicators. What are the bad fit indicators for Union? Well, we know Union is all about big events and rapid service and all that. So those businesses outside of hospitality, et cetera, are bad fits. This can help you identify, where those target markets are. What are those feature highlights, guest experience highlights, support, sales advantages? What deficiencies would be exposed in competitors like Toast that Union can do really well, right? So it really gives you a lot of ammunition. Get different messaging angles. We know that Union says they're going to save a lot of labor because self-led ordering reduces the number of servers you need. So lots of great information in each of these playbooks, including objection handling and talk tracks.
Now, John, I'm going to stop very quickly here. Now, let's stay on that page for Union or just any one of these. Doesn't matter.
Yep. Okay.
Pick anyone that you want. You
All
can
right. I'll just go back to Union since we have it here.
Okay. Now, I don't know if you had an opportunity to put some of that secret sauce into the Genie app, but you had shared with me, I think Justin shared it on a daily bearing, that when a sales agent is driving, if they actually, I believe that if they want to set it up within the app to listen to an article so that it will read through it, what is that all about? Just so our agents have an understanding of, well, gosh, do I have time to read all through all of this? Or is there a hack where I can actually listen to this like an audiobook, for lack of a better term? You could probably explain it better than I can. John, take it away.
Well, I don't need to explain it because we have an article in Genie to help you implement it. But the long or short is many of our devices and operating systems already have accessibility tools built into them. So to your point, if I point to an article, I can have it read to me and broadcast on my car speakers through, CarPlay or, the Google car program. And how to do that is actually hidden up here in the home screen in some of our library editions. So if we do a view all to see some of these past ones, here's that article. Let's listen to Genie app content while you drive. Well, we have an iOS instruction, Android instructions, and maybe laptops, generic browsers as well. So this will give you all of that information you need to be able to listen to these on your, on the way to that next prospect. So I think that's an excellent shout out.
No, I think there's definitely a lot of value to it. I mean, for the most part, sales agent, we love you. We try to give you as much information as possible. Sometimes it may be perceived as being a little overwhelming in regards to the amount of content that we do present to you. However, if you find that beneficial, thinking that there's a specific article that you'd love to read, you don't have the time, but you have the ability to play it through your car speakers so that you can just kind of listen to what the article is all about, absolutely take advantage of it. John, you pointed it out. It's located under Home, and it's located under Articles, correct?
It's in the library articles.
In the library, correct. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Let's pop open one of the battle cards here. Let's go to like Union versus Toast or Clover versus Toast. What are the ones that you have up there, John? Just any one of them.
Let me actually let's open Order Counter.
Yep.
So a couple things. Again, the neat thing about Genie is we can deliver information in multimedia, right? We can have images, text, videos, all these great formats in one place. So for Order Counter, as an example, get a quick summary. We've got a little video showing how Order Counter actually works. Order Counter advantages. I actually tried to come up with some Toast advantages, so I'm trying to be fair, Scott.
You didn't get very far though.
No, well, I mean, it was a reach anyway, but trying to be arm's length and fair. Why we think Order Counter is unique, the screen content. So I tell you why it's different, but then I show you why it's different, right? So I actually have screenshots in here. In this example, it shows the check marks are the included ingredients. I tap a check mark and it becomes a no instruction to the kitchen. Any of these other options are add-ons. So I have deletions, additions, and inclusions all on one UI screen. Very, very unique, very different. Order Counter also supports images. But more importantly is I show you what the Toast alternative implementation looks like. So you can say, here's where you are today. Here's where you could be tomorrow. As you'll notice here, very poor use of screen real estate. 50% of it is missing because each of these columns is their own category. You can see these dots on the bottom indicate that there's 4 more screens after this to scroll through and tap through. Similarly with modifiers, again, salad dressing choice. Each of those modifier groups has a column, but yet it's wasting all of this space. And you can see I've got 2 more pages in the wings. So again, not very user-friendly versus this UI where the modifier, again, ingredients, options, deletions, all rest in view. And we even have extra space that we haven't even used yet. So really trying to educate you and turn that tablet around and show your prospect. Now, when should we set up a demo for you?
Yep.
Right? You're just casting the lure. Order Counter and many of other partners will do the demos for you.
No, and I will say that as far as setting up these battle cards goes, this kind of sort of goes back to when we did the original POS Roundup a month or 2 ago, where we opened it up to you, the sales agent, and we had like a little bit of a roundtable discussion, and we were just kind of asking questions. What can we do to make things easier for you when you're out in the field? To which there were several agents that came out with a suggestion of, we would like to know what it is that we are up against. And, what you see on the screen right now, this is just John scratching the surface in regards to our offerings up against some of the competition. Now, John highlighted a little bit earlier, there's that suggestion box. Okay? So I would say probably one of the more beneficial things that would help us to help you understand what you're up against, fill out that suggestion box. Tell us, who are you going up against in your neighborhood where we can build out battle cards to help you to win the business? I know some of the ones that have popped up recently, there was talks of, could we do content with Spot On? Could we do content with, I think it's Genius. So these are the suggestions that we do want, and just know, it takes a little bit of time for us to get the content created, but anything that we can do to help you to make your experience even better, to help you sell more efficiently, take advantage of that. Let us know what you're up against so that we can help you out.
Yep. So Scott, I want to pivot a little bit if you don't mind.
I was going to say, one thing you could pivot to is, Steve is reminding us, don't forget who does the installation. I think this is definitely a key piece. So let's pull it up.
Somebody just let the mouse out of the bag there. So let's just see here. Screen
that's
2.
fine. John, while you're pulling that up, I'm going to just read a couple more questions that popped up
Yep,
here.
please.
Can the app do an SMP quote?
Simplified something pricing. Right? Flat rate? Is that flat rate?
Steve, if you don't mind coming off mute, want to make sure we understand your question, friend.
Processing. It's a flat dollar amount on a $100,000 merchant, and they've got a base effective rate of 1.65. I want to add $599 to it. So that $599 is my profit, is our profit. Which makes it nice is that when he goes up in volume, it's still the same. The downside, when he goes down in volume, it's still the same. But it's a wonderful tool to be exact all of it.
That I have not, and there's not really a hack to solve for that because it really comes at the solution from a different angle. We could certainly put something together, on an Excel spreadsheet for you though, if you want a tool.
What I did when you were doing that, I just $100,000 merchant. I'm going to add $599 to it. Divided it, came out to 59.9 basis points.
Oh,
So
there you go. So you already figured it out, Steve.
anyway,
All right, John Marshall, one more question for you. You may actually know this. Is there an easy way to print information out of the Genie app? As an example, is there a way to print off that POS Roundup chart?
So there isn't, but once it's opened up in a browser, you can usually print those to a PDF or to a paper printer. Like if you're at your desk, for example, those are all in electronic form, so you should be able to download those and print them.
Yeah, and that's actually a good call out, John, because when you, the sales agent, click on one of those links within the Genie app, it does open in a separate web browser to which, to John's point, either print the page or just do a copy paste, throw it into a Word doc, and get that printed off. And John, I'm going to tell you right now, this chat is loading up with. So who does the installation? So you got to take it away, brother, because I knew you were
Okay,
chomping at the bit to do
before
this
we
piece.
leave that last thought, though, is
Yep.
when you open that link for the articles, I provide you both the URL and a preview in the Genie app. So if you're on your phone, the preview is going to be pretty small. So that's where I would take the link and send it to yourself and open it up in a regular browser, and then you could, print it if you want. But again, paper gets stale, right? Electronics stays fresh. So, with no further ado, Scott, let's move ahead.
Yep.
I want to talk about our whole POS continuum, right? We've talked about roundups before, but we've really stuck to those 5 major players. So I'm going to take the gloves off and bring everybody into this mix and divide this list into 3 bite-sized pieces. So what do you think about that?
I think that's great.
Well, here are the pieces. Lightweight POS, right? Typically merchant-led configuration installation to address what's blowing up in the chat box. Medium weight POS, and let's talk about Square and Clover, right? Because we know we need to deploy our own Clover, right? You need to know the ins and outs. You need to train. You need to propose. You need to set up, install, all of that stuff. So that's this medium weight agent led. And then we've got this other category, which I'll call heavyweight, both in features, but where we have the option for vendor-led deployment, right? You probably are familiar with this if you've had a union demo or order counter demo. Well, you supply the lead, they do the demo, they do the proposal, they implement, they ship, they train. I mean, it's really a great option. So I want to drill into this a little bit deeper, and let's start with lightweight, right? Speed to deployment, simplicity, really more for payments, maybe basic items. But again, here's the kicker, right? When they start asking about kitchen remote printers, online ordering, barcode scanning, weighed items by the pound or whatever, it's time to go up to that next level. But before we do, let's just show you a quick grid. By the way, this link is in the knowledge base of Genie today as we speak. So you don't have to take screenshots or memorize it or whatever. It's all in there. But I wanted to go through our lightweight POS. I've got a couple of characteristics of each of these. Again, we've noted that the merchant is the likely person to deploy it themselves, maybe with your help, maybe not. And notice I have them sort of sorted by their monthly cost. And I think, this is sort of, in my way of saying, total cost of ownership, right? We've talked about Square having a rooftop price instead of a per device price, right? So if you'll notice in these prices, the initial device is out front. Each additional device is separate. And this has been the way of the world in POS for a very, very long time. I'm going to call out that the free Square plan is 0 up front and 0 each additional devices. You can have unlimited devices, and all you're paying for is the processing. And that's where I think the value proposition of the technology needs to be thought of for Square. Is you can't just look at the pricing of the processing without looking at the SaaS and combining the two, right? Because that's really your total cost of ownership. But
And I would.
but
Oh, and I was gonna say very quickly too. Even though you've got it broken out as far as the pricing goes, per month, per device, and everything else goes. Ultimately, what it does come down to also is, while sometimes it's desirable to say, "Hey, I've got a merchant," but you know what? I wanna try to do this at the least amount of money out of pocket for them. Sometimes you got to have a little bit of those hard conversations, because sometimes, even though you would love to give them something that's free, or you'd love to give them something that's very inexpensive, when you take a look through the POS information within Genie, sometimes it's going to come down to the functionality. And sure, sometimes it's going to cost a little bit more out of pocket, but spending a little bit more money out of pocket up front is what's going to help to keep that merchant long term. I'm sorry, John, go ahead and take it away.
no, that's a good shout out. I also want to mention, and you guys might be questioning some of these prices. Our per mid per month fee is in here, right? Because that is a real cost that will be on their statement anyway. And so we really can't look at the SaaS fee in isolation without looking at those other account fees. So this is the true cost, but I point that out to you because that doesn't exist, in our new Square relationship. So again, another one of those factors, Scott, that total cost of ownership.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Go ahead, John.
no, I was going to say I'm gonna keep moving on. This is in Genie for you to look at going forward. But let's press on. So let's talk about that middleweight. It's not really collecting payments anymore. It's really running your business, inventory, remote printing, different workflows, online ordering channels, bringing all those things together. Maybe even third-party delivery apps, right? So now, agent-led. We're talking about Square, we're talking about Clover, where the merchant must own the configuration training without needing a formal vendor implementation project, right? This kind of is sitting on you to implement. I've walked a lot of people through a lot of these. It's successful. It doesn't cost extra money, but the weight is on your shoulders. So what does that look like? Well, this is a little bit redundant, but that Square in the Plus plan has retail, restaurant, and services, but so does Clover. But again, a little bit of a call out on price. Square has that per rooftop price without any additional fees for other devices, whereas Clover has additional device fees on top of their base SaaS fees. So depending on what features you need and all that, these are the systems that are sort of agent-led in terms of proposal, setup, training of that merchant, right? So be careful that you don't overpromise and underdeliver, because again, the onus is really on you to carry that, that system over the finish line. Scott, were you going to ask something?
No, and I was going to say, if nothing else, our hope is that we're going to eliminate some of that gotcha moments where, you went in and you proposed this technology, but maybe you didn't realize that you're going to have to take a little bit of ownership of it. All we want to do is just kind of eliminate some of that friction so none of you have a surprise when you do make a recommendation on a specific point of sale. John, I know we got a few minutes left. Go ahead. Keep going, my man.
So I want to also point out something to you, Scott. I'm
Yeah.
going to go back 2 slides, and just for laughs and giggles, swipe simple in the register, which has modifiers, right? The first device is $40, including the per mid. Clover Essentials, again, doesn't have remote printing, doesn't have online ordering, is actually 50. So if we skip back to these medium weights again, notice the square plans are, $9 more than Swipe Simple, $1 less than Clover Essentials. So this is what the comparison I wanted you all to think about is maybe all in total cost of ownership, you could put somebody into a mid-weight true POS for pennies or single dollars difference than what we've traditionally thought of, and put people on the low-cost alternative that they might outgrow.
Yeah.
Think about how important online ordering is, right? Let's move them up to that middle tier, and looking at the actual cost, it may not be that much different. So let's go ahead onto the next level, heavyweight, right? It's all about the rollout. It's about the babysitting, the training, the implementation, the importing of a menu or retail SKUs. It doesn't matter what you want to call it. It's off your shoulders. You can be a participant, but you're not leading it. You are observing, right? So again, training staff, support, go live, all of those things. We talk about a couple brands here, but let's look at that list. I have Square Plus back in here. I have Square Premium back in here because, drum roll please, Scott, Square has onboarding professional services. So Square fits in the middleweight, DIY, agent-led. Square can also be sold as a heavyweight, led by Square onboarding and professional services. Now, again, their premium plan moves from $49 to $149. In the different tier documents for Square in Genie, it talks about those feature set differences. But notice it also, Square now also plays with the other heavy hitters, the Coronas, the order counters, if I can say it, and the unions. Again, we've got some Saas in here. I thought, in fact, Scott and I were both pleasantly surprised when we saw Corona includes professional services as part of the Saas. There's no additional fees. Really amazing value in the Corona for SKU heavy retailers. But again, everybody has a little bit of that fees because they are actually carrying the weight of implementation. And again, I think I was pleasantly surprised to see Square right about in the sweet spot of what others are charging. So again, think about these different tiers. Are you going to do it? Is the merchant going to do it? Do they want someone else to do it? And set the proper expectations, know those proper costs, and have the rollout done properly with or without you. So one last thing I want to mention to you guys is hybrid, right? And this came up as we were going through all this, and you saw Square has retail, services, restaurant. So does Clover, mind you. But this hybrid is a really interesting model. Let's pick on order counter and union, right? Very laser focused on their industries with features that are second to none. But if you have sort of a multifaceted business, a hybrid business, if you will, the Square offering, has one platform that gives you access to all 3 verticals, perhaps under the same rooftop. So I want to ask you all to think about this as you're driving around. What merchants come to mind when you think of hybrid? And I have a list here for you. Again, think about garden centers. They do retail. They send people out to plant off premise. They do classes. Sometimes they even have cafes. These hybrid business models are a way for these small businesses to survive. And I think these hybrid POSs like Square open up a whole new world of prospecting that isn't cut out of those old school traditional silos and those verticals. So I'm going to leave you with that. This is in Genie. But I'm really excited by this because I think there's a lot of this low-hanging fruit to be leveraged by you all.
Yeah. And for the most part, for you, the sales agent, we realize that sometimes making a POS decision can be a little bit daunting. I kind of alluded to it towards the very beginning when I was talking about how Clover could be in a hospitality environment. Clover can also be in retail. Well, Order Counter can also be in hospitality, but Order Counter can also be in retail. It gets a little daunting sometimes, so all we're trying to do is help you to navigate so that you can make good decisions while you're out there in the field, without having to go, well, gosh, maybe I should reach out to somebody. All the information readily available to you in the Genie app. We hope that it's helpful, but also going back to what we said previously, if there's something else you need, that suggestion box right there in the Genie app, fill it out. That goes to my inbox, that goes to John's inbox. We see all of your suggestions. Basically what we're doing here is we're just building out the app so that it works for you, not for us. We're just a couple of guys sitting in the office going, well, gosh, I think they're going to like that. But you know what? What we want to know is what works best for you. What brings efficiency to your day every single day so that you can close your deals quickly. I see that we got a couple of minutes left. I'm going to open it back up to the sales agents. Questions, come off mute or put them in the chat. Love to hear from you. I think I did see a couple questions that popped up in here. There was a question that was thrown in the chat. Did the Clover Saas go up as far as the hardware and the installation goes?
Clover Saas went up a year ago, June, when they introduced the growth plans. So I wouldn't say it was recent, but again, it definitely changed in June of 2025.
Yep. Okay. Couple of minutes left. Questions, come off mute, throw them in the chat. Love to hear from you.
Hey, shameless plug, Scott. We still have this hybrid, all these hybrids showing on screen. You said 721, Matt comes back from Square to talk about setting up and implementing agent demo accounts in Square. He's whispered to me that he's going to have a file that can be uploaded by you agents to pre-configure and populate your demo accounts with items, services, etc. So instead of building that out manually, he's going to have this payload. If you want to adopt that, you can certainly do it the other way. But that's another little exciting thing that's going to be showing up on the 21st.
Yeah, absolutely. Got 1 minute left. I'm going to throw it out to you, the audience. What other questions do you have? Love to hear from you. Once. Going twice. All right, and there we go. Number 3. To you, the audience, thank you so much for joining us every single Tuesday. We love seeing you on these calls. I will be sending out the invites for the month of July tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing you on all those sessions in July. And I'm going to put out one more thing to you, the sales agent. When we do these Toolbox Tuesdays, we're only as good as the information that we think that you want. And this is where I'm going to challenge you, the sales agent, or at least maybe ask you a favor. What should we be doing for content? What kind of conversations should we be having with you? Sure, we can cover a whole bunch of product and a lot of our internal systems and things that we use every single day, but I want to throw it out there to you. What are some of the conversations we should be having? Should we host some sessions based upon specific industries? Should we have conversations based upon the current state of the industry? What is it that's going to help move the needle for you? And the reason I'm throwing this out there to you is because I want you to reach out to me directly. sroberge@paycompass.com. Give me some suggestions when it comes to Toolbox Tuesday. We'd love to just kind of tailor these a little bit more to your specific needs so that you can be successful. Okay? Don't be afraid to reach out. Send those emails over to me, sroberge@paycompass.com. Love to hear your suggestions because who knows, maybe one of your suggestions could become a future Toolbox Tuesday. So before we break, one more time, let's give some love and some thank yous to our special guest panelist, Mr. John Marshall. John, thank you for all you do, my man. We appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me, Scott.
You got it. And I look forward to seeing all of you next week on Tuesday for Coffee with Closers. And until we meet again, Let us know what you need so that you can be successful, because truthfully, we can't help if we don't know where it hurts. And until we meet again, domo arigato, thank you very much, and take care, everybody.
See y'all.